Hi, welcome to MindBlend, your one-stop destination for intriguing insights into the human mind. Today, we're peeling back the layers of everyday deception, exploring the astonishing types of lies we tell each day. Did you know the average person tells more lies than they realize, and some of them might even surprise you? Intrigued? We thought you would be. But before we dive into this world of falsehoods, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay tuned for more fascinating content. You might not realize it, but we are all guilty of telling lies, more often than we'd like to admit. Our journey into the labyrinth of deception begins with understanding the concept of lying. Isn't it fascinating that lying is a universal habit, transcending cultures, ages, and societies? It's so prevalent that research suggests we lie on average once or twice a day. Quite a sobering thought, isn't it? The psychology behind lying is complex. Sometimes we lie out of necessity, to protect ourselves or others. Other times, we lie to project a better image of ourselves, to fit in, or to manipulate situations in our favor. The motives are varied and deeply rooted in our psyche. But let's take a step back and ask, what constitutes a lie? Essentially, lying is the act of intentionally misleading someone by not telling the truth. But it's not just black and white, there are shades of gray, and that's where different types of lies come into play. Today, we're going to delve into the world of white lies, the seemingly harmless fibs that often slip by unnoticed. White lies are those little untruths we tell to spare someone's feelings or to avoid minor conflicts. For instance, saying you like a friend's new haircut even when you don't, or telling your grandmother you loved her meatloaf even though it was too salty. We often tell white lies without a second thought. They're like social lubricants, smoothing out the rough edges of our interactions. But it's important to remember that even though these lies are often told with good intentions, they're still lies. So what makes white lies different from other lies? And are they as harmless as we believe them to be? What happens when those little white lies start snowballing into bigger deceptions? We often tell white lies to avoid hurting others, but are they really harmless? Let's find out. As we move forward, we'll explore these questions and more, unraveling the intricate web of deception we weave every day. White lies, small and seemingly innocent, are a common part of our everyday interactions. These are the little untruths we tell to avoid hurting feelings or to keep the peace. They're the "yes, your new haircut looks great," or "I'd love to come to your party but I already have plans" kind of lies. But what are they really, and what do they say about us? At face value, white lies seem harmless enough. They're often seen as social lubricants, helping us to navigate awkward situations and keep our relationships running smoothly. But when we dig a little deeper, things become less clear-cut. On one hand, white lies could be seen as a kind of kindness. They can save someone from unnecessary hurt or embarrassment, and can help to maintain harmony in our relationships. They're a sign that we care about the feelings of others, and that we're willing to sacrifice a little bit of truth for the sake of their comfort. On the other hand, white lies are still lies. They involve a deliberate distortion of the truth, no matter how small or well-intended. And while they might make things easier in the short term, they can also create problems down the line. After all, if we're willing to lie about small things, might we also lie about bigger things? And if we're constantly telling white lies, are we being truly authentic in our relationships? The impact of white lies can be especially significant in close relationships, where trust is paramount. While a white lie might seem like a small thing, it can sow seeds of doubt and uncertainty. If we're constantly wondering whether our partner is telling the truth or just sparing our feelings, it can be hard to feel secure and confident in the relationship. So, white lies might not be as white as they seem, but what about when we stretch the truth? Ever caught yourself adding a bit of extra spice to your stories? That's the art of exaggeration. We all do it, whether it's inflating the size of that fish you caught last summer, or adding a couple of extra hours to how long you spent studying. But why do we exaggerate? Well, it's a form of storytelling. We embellish the truth to make our stories more entertaining, more engaging. It's about capturing attention, about making our experiences seem more remarkable than they might have been. But here's where it gets tricky. Exaggeration isn't just about enhancing stories. It can also be a means of self-promotion, a way to make ourselves seem more impressive, more accomplished, and that can lead us into dangerous territory. Think about it. When you exaggerate your achievements on a resume, or inflate your income when talking to friends, you're not just telling a tall tale. You're creating a false impression of yourself, one that could lead to unrealistic expectations and disappointment when the truth inevitably comes out. And that's the paradox of exaggeration. On one hand, it can make our stories more vivid, our lives more exciting. But on the other, it can lead us to construct a facade, a version of ourselves that doesn't quite match up to reality, and then there's the ripple effect. When we exaggerate, we're not just deceiving others, we're also deceiving ourselves. We start to believe our own hype, our own embellishments. And before we know it, we're living in a world that's more fiction than fact. So, what's the takeaway? Well, there's nothing wrong with a bit of dramatic flair, a touch of hyperbole, but it's important to remember the line between a harmless embellishment and a deceptive exaggeration. Exaggerations can certainly make life more interesting, but they can also blur the line between reality and fiction. However, what happens when we leave out the truth entirely? Not all lies involve false statements. Sometimes the most potent lies are those of omission. Think about it. How many times have you withheld information not because it was irrelevant, but because it served your narrative better? That's what we call a lie of omission. A lie of omission isn't necessarily about saying something that isn't true, but rather about not saying something that is true. It's a sly form of deception that often slips under the radar because it doesn't feel like a lie in the traditional sense. You're not fabricating a story or distorting reality, you're just leaving a few essential details out of the picture. But don't be fooled. This silent deception can be as misleading as any other lie. Unlike white lies or exaggerations, lies of omission can be particularly harmful because they create a false sense of security. Imagine a friend invites you to a party, but fails to mention that your ex will be there. They didn't technically lie, but they deliberately withheld information that could have influenced your decision. The key to identifying lies of omission lies in the intention. If the person omitting the information does so with the knowledge that it would alter the recipient's understanding or decision-making, then it's a lie of omission. It's a subtle, yet powerful form of deception that operates in the shadows of our daily interactions. But here's the thing about lies of omission: they have a way of revealing themselves eventually. The truth has a habit of coming to light, and when it does, it can erode trust and damage relationships. Just because it's not a blatant lie doesn't mean it won't have blatant consequences. So the next time you're tempted to leave out a crucial detail or two, remember the potential harm that can come from it. Just because you're not saying something untrue doesn't mean you're not lying. Omissions might seem less direct, but they can be just as damaging. Now, let's summarize what we've learned. So, we've ventured through the intriguing realm of lies, from white lies to exaggerations to omissions. Quite a journey, hasn't it? We started off with white lies, those little untruths we tell to avoid hurting someone's feelings or to keep the peace. They may seem harmless, but they can sometimes create a slippery slope, can't they? Then we delved into the realm of exaggerations. We discovered how these overstatements can often be a way to make our stories more interesting or to make ourselves seem more impressive. But as we've seen, exaggerations can also distort reality and lead to misunderstandings. Finally, we explored omissions, the act of leaving out pertinent information. This can sometimes be the most deceptive of all, as it involves a deliberate decision to withhold truth. It's a silent deception that can create a false impression without uttering a single lie. In the end, it's clear that we all tell lies in one form or another every day. Whether it's a little white lie, an exaggeration, or an omission, these untruths are a part of our daily lives. But recognizing them is the first step towards understanding why we lie, and perhaps how we can be more truthful. It's been an enlightening journey, hasn't it? Now, we'd love to hear from you. Share your experiences with these types of lies in the comments below. And don't forget to hit the like button if you found this video insightful. Until next time, stay curious.